Welcome to the channel. This is Reliable Rudy. Sorry about that. I accidentally closed out of my OBS, so that was not able to. And I believe it was Rax. Rax, if you're still there, we have a firm up right here. Our original entry. So this is why I haven't been tuned in to a firm as much. Is because the entry that we have is this 14 break. We have an entry on the break, and we have an entry on the retest. And we've been respecting these levels to the upside, where we respected the gap, we respected the top end of the move right there. You know, it gaps up over that. We respect the gap up, pulled back in. We did nothing with it, and now all we've done is have a 1750 print on the name. And we have an alert set for this day high break, which has got a beautiful consolidation. So if you're playing this consolidation right here, I think it's reasonable that you're going to get it. And why we have this alert set right here is because this is the start of the gap fill right there. You can see the start of the gap. So we get this gap down. So I'm already telling myself that, hey, if we break over top of this and start filling that gap, we could easily see some movement where if I just mark the bottom wicks, the bottom, these three moves to the upside right here is the extension I'm going to be looking for, where we're going to trim all the ways to the upside. So I don't know if you're still there. Hopefully you're able to tune in for that. I didn't mean to accidentally close my OBS out. So that is me. That's on me. But I'm really focused on this NKLA trade because eventually this green move isn't gonna be there anymore. Eventually this pullback is gonna come in, and where do we pull back to? You know, a 170 seems reasonable. A retest of these wick highs over here. So that's kind of what we have marked. So this 175 and 172 seems like a reasonable area to reload. So if I'm talking about cutting, I mean, we just had a 195 print. So I'm already telling myself, hey, this could pull back in 11 to 10%. And if it does so, then that's where we're looking to reload. Looking around some more, GRR candle number one. I would be shocked if this candle turned green. So now that we have this green move, I am looking at this as the pull of a bull flag, where this is candle number one. I'm looking for candle number two and candle number three to pull back into a level where we're on the bid at 450s. So if it can do that, I wouldn't be shocked if there was some sort of downtrend built in right here. Excuse me. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. So GRR and Soundhound is also one that we've trimmed at 191s. We're on the ask at 96, no fill, and on the ask at 4. And we just hit a reload with those 191 or 391s that we bought right in here around this 383. So that's what we're looking for. But I think with Soundhound, the bigger picture is this channel. You have this start to a channel right here. And if we pull up the daily, the bigger picture is actually this move right here. So we're kind of playing this trend line, and if it wants to pull back in lower and test these flat tops, this is what we're looking for. On the red engulfing to the downside, not really interested and not really able to. I would have had to have had this alerted, but now that I've seen it wick into this level, I can see the buyers are there. And now, if this is a bear flag, I'm looking at this to be a frowny face, continuation down to the trend line. Well, now this green candle's sort of putting this this uptrend right here that can discredit this bear flag. So I'm looking for this move back, and if it's able to go all the way to this 420, one, you're holding strength. So that's a big indicator for me that, hey, we pulled into a level, we remained a strong name, we remained above an uptrend. This pass is what I'm looking for me to take a trade on it. And Soundhound's a name, we've played this trend line multiple times. Big shout out to H&H Trader, who said that Soundhound isn't a day tradable name. Well, I disagree. But me and Hal, we have different styles of trading. And you know, both of us have successful trading strategies. So there's a million different trading strategies out there. No one trading strategy is better than the other. But this is just kind of what I look for. I look for trend lines. I look for areas where I think more people are going to buy than sell. if I think more people are going to buy than sell at a given price, then the price will go up from that particular price. But once it moves up, the battle rinse and repeats. So I'm trying to find areas where an area, so not just one particular price, I want to find areas where more people are looking to buy than sell. And then I also use the strength and affirm actually. So if you are out there, affirm giving this alert break. So starting to fill this gap right here. So this is kind of what we're talking about. And you can see this flat top. These are the orders. This is a bear setup right here. Boom boom, but it leaves this wick. So this is what put it on the radar, and on this day this is where it built that flat top. And once it takes that flat top out, it leaves this green candle and starts filling this gap. This is why we respected, and then it gaps up originally over top of that. So we print the name right off the open, and we're able to even push higher to the 16 gap. Well, now you gap up, you have buyers holding it above the gap. We're not surprised that this is getting continuation play right here. Uh, and if we're able to get this move up into the 18s, we're going to respect it, but we actually think that this can break out over 1970 is the breakout level. You have a gap that should be respected at 21. Is it going to be trying to build a flat top around this level? So you can see reject, reject, reject. Doesn't quite get there. Pulls back in. Now do we need to push up to those 21s? Where if it gets to 21, then by all means, we're okay with it. GRR gave me a fill. So we have an entry level fill on GRR. And I don't like the red candle that it put in right here. But right into this support right here and increased volume. So this is going to be a little bit of concern. We're going to nurse this position. If it pulls back in even further, this wick top right here meeting in with my 21 is reasonable area, middle of this green move, but I do not like this red candle that's coming in. So we're gonna have to put our focus to this GRR because I'm not really interested in giving back a ton of profits, but I'm okay giving a little bit of risk to the name. Where if these 50s can hold as it's wicking into that level right now, so we're in at these 450s. Last minute of this candle, we want to see it hold this support level right here. And a part that I do like about it, looking at the strength, we haven't quite got that positive strength yet. And I would say you do have a catalyst for movement to the downside as you have this descending channel. But now 50s are holding as support. So that is kind of what I wanted to see. I was almost tempted to just punch in market on these 45s when it was red engulfing candle. A lot of people are scared of that red engulfing candle. Me? Ooh, I've had some great entries on nasty candles that wick right back up into the 70s. So now GRR, now that we have the 450 enter, if it starts catching a bid, and one thing that I like about it is it did leave a wick of buying pressure. So if this next candle comes back into 40s and starts leaving that wick, I'm going to feel good about, potentially adding to it. But you can see this could also be building a flat top for a 408 or a flat bottom break for a 408. So I'm not going to be interested in holding this under 425, but if it gets there, this is where we can add true size. Oh, nickel is down to 174. This is what I was talking about. So we got this wick top print up at 95s. Now coming back in. So maybe catching some resistance across the board. Not a firm holding strong. So that looks good. And Soundhound also holding these 370. So I'm going to go look back and see all these fills that we got above 75. So I can see a 78. I can see 86, I can see 90, 95. Oh man, I missed out on that. So we got piece there, piece there, a piece there, and a piece there. Yeah, we have all kinds of fills. We have 78, 80, 78, 86, 90, 95. And now leaving that wick right there. I will say we have a lot of time left in this candle. Yes, it is wicked, but this candle is not done forming yet. It could easily turn green, but it could leave this red engulfing candle and actually need to pull back in to that 170 again. So by no means is this pullback over just because it wicked into this level and buyers are trying to keep it up. The bigger picture would be this hour candle, which is 42 minutes left. Um, if it needs to pull back into the middle of this green move, we do have to be concerned with that possibility. FVRR, a nice green move through those 30s, so I'm just going to discredit that channel. And I'm looking at this as sort of a flat top, reject, reject. So 3060 is going to be an area we could be looking to print the name. But I guess we are on an hour chart, so I should have. So you can see already showing you that wick into 50. So if it wants to hold this base right here, we think that we can print on the name. The part that I don't like is just the red engulfing candle going all the way through that green candle right there on increased volume too. So it didn't really have the most amount of volume, but it was increasing. It does pass the rules. But this increased volume right here on this pullback candle is a little bit of concern. So if this were to catch a bid up into like the 70s again, I think we'll just take our profits and go. But I do like to add at 440s and stops underneath 20. So we're gonna give it a little bit of risk and give back some profits if that happens. But you know, that's part of trading. It's all about risk reward. And from this 450, if I'm saying 25 cents, my 1-to-1 is 75. So take that for what it's worth. Soundhound, I would say, isn't the most reasonable setup, but I think these 380s look all right. Good old coffee. And a firm, nice green candle close right there. Now I would expect it to wick into these highs. So as long as it's above 1765, I think that's a reasonable long as it's filling that gap. I think this should be a continuation play. That doesn't mean it's going to be, but I will say that uh, it's a solid setup, setting days high. Continuation. Do I want to take profits right here as it's starting to fill this gap? No. I want to try and get this move. You know, let's start with 18 or even the wick low right there, which is 1817, and then we can go the bodies of the candles. We can go 1850 and then the gap. So if I'm looking at 4 different trim areas that trim 5% on each one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're cutting 20% of a 14 break. You can't complain when you're taking 30% on a trade. By no means am I ever gonna be mad if I take profits right here and it runs up to 21 and my 14 break that was a 30% trade turns into a 50%. No, because we're holding a piece for the dream anyways. We want it to do that. So that's a little bit of just kind of how I see it. But I would say it's a strong chart. If you were trading it today, I would say you had a reasonable setup off the neckline because it gaps up to that neckline. And what I mean by neckline is when you set a higher low right there, it kind of gives you this look. Well, it gaps up and fills that gap. This should put this on the map right away. So let's say you were a little late to this and it gaps up, you see it fill the gap and it sets a close right here. And once this green candle takes out the high, so like a 1660, maybe you're a little scared of this, but when you see this green candle come in, it's nut up or shut up. You're either going to take the position or you're going to try and take the position inside of the pullback. So you get the 2 candle move, it trades sideways. As it's continuing to trade sideways and hold 1750s, it's a nut up or shut up type of area where okay, do I take the position or not? Well, now we're getting a leg up. Now we're starting to fill this gap down right here. Uh, it's, it's only so much that you can do, but I will say that a firm is a strong chart setup right there. Uh, what it isn't as strong of a chart setup would be GRRR because you're trading in a downtrend. NKLA, I'd say this is a very strong setup from the 150 break. This is what I mean by identifying a level. We weren't even sure. You can go back to my last stream that I accidentally closed when we took the trade and we said, man, I don't like that it's 3 candles moves. And when I look at those 3 candle moves on increased volume like that, I'm already thinking to myself, hey, we need to pull back into this original break. So I was, had it pulled back in the 45s, we were gonna buy. We were there. We didn't know it was gonna put in 7 consecutive candles to the upside and take out the highs. No, that wasn't in the cards. But because we got the entry, it allowed us to trim the levels to the upside, and now we're sitting in a great position where our best print is a 95, and we think that this is the bear flag right here. Not the bear flag, the bull flag. Where if you go to that hour candle, the hour chart, you got these 2 green candle moves. If this is pullback candle number 1, we're looking for number 2 and number 3 to pull into the middle of this green move, where we're reloading anything that we trimmed above this in around that 160 to 170 range. So the wick low right here is 173. Okay, so be it. And GRR catching a little bit of a bid. So let's go back over here and you can see holding these 450s. So we have one fill on the 450s. If you were watching my last stream, you know we called this out at 440 and we said, hey, we like this sort of solidified higher low. Why do we like it? Is because all of this green volume that came in right here, any profit takes that came over here, here's your flat bottom break. You're trying to hold support right here, boom. Stops trigger, you get the bear flag continuation into the original entry. So why is it the original entry? As soon as you take out this wick high and maybe you wait for the take of this next candle, it wicks down. This is where we pull back into the original entry. Now we set a double bottom. Now we test the downtrend. Can we get a bull flag that breaks this downtrend that pushes up to this 5? We think that 5 is reasonable support because that was the, if I was looking short, if I'm sitting in a short right now and I took the short of this flat bottom break, you have to anticipate that the shorts are in around 5 to 520. So if it runs back up into that range and the shorts reload their position, it's going to be a battle that's going to trade sideways. And whichever way it goes, I want to be in the benefiter of the position that it is. So that's what we're looking for with GRR. Whether it pans out or not, we're not sure. And Soundhound catching a little bit of a bid, so let's just go take that reload. We reloaded 84s as it pulled back in. Now a green candle coming in. And one part that we weren't sure about is that it put this move down below this stair step. So it stair steps up, just marking the tops of the bodies. It puts red engulfing down through that. And we have a channel that we're looking to trade. And we have a catalyst that says, hey, we're on a longer term trend line right here. If this channel gives up, we're telling ourselves already, hey, we're coming down to retest this flat top. Resist, resist, resist. Now you break out, holds as support, holds as support, holds as support. So now if it pulls back in and holds as support, now we have this trend line right here. So that's what we're looking for with that. And of course, if there's anything else that anybody wants me to look at, I am completely okay with bouncing around and looking at tickers, especially if you guys are trading them. I'll share my 10 cents on them and we'll go from there. GRR catching a bid. Now 13 pennies in the money, 14 pennies in the money. So let's just go ahead and take a piece off. If this pulls back in the 450s, we feel good reloading the position. So let's go ahead and take a piece off. And I'm not sure where that fill came in at. But let's go ahead and find out. We got 62 halves. Now let's go ahead and get a little bit of a refresh on this watch light. Oh boy, XRP is breaking out right now. Look at this volume. Good Lord, look at that move on XRP. Up 25%. Look at that flat top that's breaking through. You think that was a nice resistance level that it's starting to break through? And why is it resisting that level? Is because look at these bottoms. Bottom, 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 flat bottom break, resist, resist, resist. You see the trend line hold. You have another trend line build. Where if this is a channel, give or take something like that, looks very good. But dang, XRP on a move right now. And for a lot of the day left, I would say this looks like maybe a news catalyst tied in with that as well. Wow. Looking around some more, I see Mara catching a bid, taking out highs. We don't feel we have an entry there. We never did take a piece off Soundhound. Let's go on the ask. I was able to break through the low body of these candles right here. So let's see if this can push back up to 92s. Let's go on the ask at 92s and just respect those levels. We are still on the ask at 96 and 4. So if we get 92s and we get 96 and we get 4s, we're going to feel pretty good about the position. GRR continuing to catch a little bit of a bid. Let's just so if I was looking at taking the middle of this move to the downside, you can see that 65 is my 382 and that half is 470. So let's go on the ask in front of 470s and start ringing the register to the upside. Where we're going to take 10% because this looks like it's going to be a churn battle potentially at this 50. So if it comes, so let's go 468, and if 468's print, we can ring the register on the name. Oh man. Huge shout out to Schmidt for bringing me a coffee. I was out of coffee filters today. But I had a massive headache. A massive headache this morning when we started the live stream. But hopefully some profits that were taken today can revive. And looking at T-Doc, T-Doc did take out the highs. We had an alert set in. Doesn't look like we're going to get that, unfortunately. RXT, oh man, what a sloppy chart setup that was. I think the daily chart speaks for itself right here, where this is a clear trend line. You pull back into a level which is this 220. We actually had a position on this day, stopped out, so we actually stopped out on the day low, almost, which is unfortunate. Sometimes that's how it pans out. You can't always be perfect, and why we stopped out, we said, hey, we think we can get this trend line. So sometimes that's how it works out. Yeah. Other than that, if there's anything you guys want to look at, NKLA, if people are tuning in for the NKLA, my scenario is about as good as it gets. I mean, there's probably some that are better, but we're in at the 150 break, and we have top print at 95s. So if this, whatever this wants to do, if it pulls back in to the 60s, anytime I get large green candle moves like this, so I normally never go underneath of a 15-minute chart. And I know that may be unpopular to some people, but I never go underneath the 15-minute chart unless I'm looking for a particular volume spikes. But when I get large green candle moves like this, I'm going to switch it to a 30-minute chart. And you can see continued increased volume, 4 green candles. I'm trying to make this move into 3 green candles. That's my goal. So here's my hour chart. We have 30 minutes left on this candle. 2 green candles. So if this is pullback candle number 1, I'm looking for pullback candle number 2 and pullback candle number 3 to come into a level, which in this particular case, if I clear everything out and I just try to mark the halfway point, we can actually go solidify that. So I was pretty close. The halfway point is 66. Anything that I trimmed over 66, I can think about reloading in at 66. And Soundhound caught a little bit of a bid. It looks like it tapped 92s there. Let's go take a look and see if we got that fill or not. If we got that fill, we're going to be pretty happy with it. And we did. We got 392s there. We're on the ask at 96. And we're on the ask at 4. GRR pulled back in. Top of that candle never gave us a fill. So let's just go ahead and reload GRRR. And let's try and see if we can continue ringing the register on this name. So we're going to reload the position back in. And we want this not to be a bear flag. So this is candle number 1 of the bear flag potentially. And if this curls down, potentially a buying opportunity off of these tops over here, which is what it looks like it's going to do. But we don't like the stair step sort of look. 12 minutes left in this candle though. It has a lot of time. And my stop is going to be underneath 25s. So trying to work into this position could be a difficult thing to do. But if 50s hold, we think that this could easily start giving you this sort of curl. I don't see anything that would look sort of like a channel. But I do see that it does have a downtrend. And I would say this is more of an uptrend. But that uptrend has no channel look to the upside. So that is something to consider. I mean, this isn't a perfect setup by any means. We're just looking for something new. And wicking into those 50s, that's a good start, as the buyers can keep holding it. If it gets over 65s, we think that a green candle can come in and maybe push back into those 75s. Affirm giving up the start of that gap. So a little red engulfing, a little concerning that it's able to break down below these wicks. We had no prints on this test up towards 18. But this is 10 minutes left in this candle. This candle could easily leave a wick that gets it back on top. And if I mark the bodies of the candles, that's at a 61, it looks like. Yeah, 61. So if it closes this candle above 61, a reasonable setup. And even if it pulled into like 750s, we think 750 should be solid support. Let's look back over at GRR as it continues to wick into these 50s. This is what we're trying to play right here. Anyone tuning in to NKLA, go back to my last live stream if you're looking for a show, because we rang the register on NKLA today. And I can see Affirm went up to those 1762s briefly. So buyers are trying to hold it above that level. So starting to wick, which is fine. You want to see the buyers trying to hold it above this 1760. That's what you want to see. FVR has the increased volume. Pullback candle number 1, very light volume. So a good sign for continuation play, maybe hold of 30. Could be the start of something there. For Kiva, it's looking like this is going to want to go test for gaps up over top of the channel. Beautiful setup, setting up the flat top over here. And more in particular, if you want to get down into the technicals, it has this flat top gap that it wicks into. Now if it gets over top of that 106, we think 116 is a reasonable area for this to maybe push and extend to. So if it wants to do that, by all means, go for it. Let's get a refresh on the list. And GRRR back up to those 60. So let's go ahead and take off a piece of that reload and continue ringing the register. Now if it pulls back into 50s again, and we're going to try and get just a little bit higher price. Let's see if it can push through these 5 lots on 62. If it's able to do that, we had 39 lots on 60. So a good look early look here on GRRR. Let's go switch over to that 15-minute chart, and you can see the wicks into those 50s is legit. Now here's 64s. Let's go ahead and take that piece off and see where we rang the register. We're still on the bid or the ask at 68s. So let's go see if we can get that fill as well. So we got 63s there off of the reload. The reload came in at 53, so rang the register on 10 cents. Now let's go see if we can get 68s. Soundhound pushing up to 92s. We already got that fill. We're on the ask at 96 and 4. So a good look. This looks like it wants to go test for the day's high. Test. Keyword test. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. But all in all, pretty nice look. And FVRR already wicking in. So buyers coming in, identified the low volume, light volume on this pullback. Could need the trade sideways a little bit, but we think we can print 30.64 as our breakout. And I'll show you what I mean by breakout is reject, reject. Now can we break over top of that where we can potentially push to flat bottom, break, resist, and even on the day that it gaps up and tries to run, pulls all the ways back in, resists this level, we think we can actually print 32.60. So we want to hold a piece for the bigger move there. Looking back at GRRR, I'm not sure if it gave us 68s there or not. Let's go take a look. No, it did not. So we're on the ask at 68. If it wants to push higher, let it push higher. By all means, we're all for it. Also notable, Kramer, you got NKLA at a buck? That a baby. Ring the register. If I had some emojis to punch right here, I'd be ringing the register for Kramer. Yeah, one flat. I remember the live stream when we were talking about that one flat, and it is dandy. Unfortunately, as you always hear me say, I'm okay buying it at a higher price if the setup is there. And in particular, I felt the setup was there for a 150 break, and if you mark this flat top that it's been resisting, this is what we're playing. So we took a 150 break, and not every breakout play that you take is going to do this. So we rang the register all the ways up to 191. So you're already over pushing that 100% in the money. So yeah, clap it up for Kramer, everyone, because that is a dandy of an entry. And I do remember when we were talking about that NKLA entry at 1. We can actually go look back at that briefly, and you can see here is the day we're testing that 1. Gets a gap up, well, it pulls all the ways back in, fills the gap at 108, holds right at this level. This is where we built the flat top, and this is where I wanted to take the trade. So honestly, probably on this day, I would have been telling myself, hey, this can pull back into 91. But had I started a position, that 1 was legit. That 1 flat was legit. So clap it up for Kramer. Beautiful trade. I got it at $40 for some reason. Which one are you talking about? Now, are you insinuating the now ticker, now service? I was actually looking at this one way back in January. Here's January. Nope, January is right in here. Actually, on this day, you can believe me or not, Kramer, we were on the bid for this gap at 393. If you're talking about now. But then it pulled back in, and same thing. We were trying to play this like a trend line, and we were on the bid, I think, at 400 flat for this day. Never came in, and now looking at it at 575, actually looks like a reasonable trade. Setting up this flat top, looks like it wants to give a leg up, holding good strength. Yeah. You were thinking on Carvana. Carvana, CVNA. Yeah, strong name. We were talking about it last week at that 27, remember? And I was saying, it's got a nice flat top. If it can take out 27, you were on point with that, by the way. When it took out 27, it ripped. So, yeah, you've been on the money, Kramer. I'll give you credit where it's due. So you're killing the game over there. Affirm, holding these 1760s. This is what I said I wanted to see. A lot of now there was 11 minutes left in this candle when it was full red engulfing. I said, hey, relax. There's a lot of time left in this candle. Give it some time. We can still hold above this sort of flat top. So now buyers stepping in at the start of this gap down. So we gap down. Here's the start of it. If we get back over 80s, it looks pretty good for continuation in my opinion. GRR, we're still waiting for this breakout. If it pulls back into 50s, we're gonna pull the trigger on some more shares. And we think that this can potentially break this downtrend, but I have to be realistic that this resistance at 5 to 529 is legit. So trying to get the entries for potential tests of resistance is what I'm looking to get. Looking at Soundhound, did it push up for 96s? Not quite. So we're on the ask at 96 and 4. So we think that we can get those to print. And NKLA, we think that we're going to see further downside move into these mid 60s. And I think the hour chart kind of gives you a better look. This next hour, if it pulls back in the 60s into the middle of this green move, that is what we're going to be looking for reloads. So we're kind of just sitting on our hands with NKLA right now. Not trying to do too much with it. We got some great trims on the name, and more than likely impossible that trade is going to turn red on us. It would have to straight down through probably 27s for it to turn red on me. But all in all, very happy with the trade. We had decent size on it. I'm looking around. Soundhound up to 394, so getting very close. GRR at 463s. If it can just get over 65s, we think we can print 68s and actually print it more to the upside. I should go check and see if we're on the ask or on the tape anywhere else. Nope, we just have the one order on 68s. Everything given continuation moves in a firm, leaving a nice wick on that. So a nice look on a firm right there. We're looking for a continuation move to the upside. Looking around, I can see plug kind of giving up the ghost a little bit, which is fine because we already had our best print on plug today was a 1273. And Kramer, you know best. We're playing around with plug around this 10, the 10 break up to 11, and the retest of 10 playing with it around here. Trim the levels here, trim the gap. And we said, hey, it's got a nice channel going. We're going to be patient for that move up to 12. Well, now we got it. So we're going to continue respecting that channel. And if it wants to give us a breakout, it gives us a breakout. Soundhound, are we going to get this 96 fill? Let's tune in for this live. GRR still at 460. So I like when I'm able to watch everything I need to watch on my opening list here. So let's see if we can get these 96s to print and see if we can get a green engulfing candle up to that 4 flat. If we're able to do that, we're going to feel pretty good, as we've just rang the register on pretty much everything today. It's been an extraordinary week. This is probably my best week of trading, day trading. I'm not going to count the swing trades because that isn't fair. That isn't fair because the market has been ripping. If I'm just specifically talking about day trades, this is potentially one of my best weeks of the year in terms of profit. Just from day trades. I'm not talking about anything else. If we're talking about swing trades and all of that, that's where it gets messy and it gets confusing. So I'm trying to keep it clean. But swing trades are also tough to to solidify how much you're actually making because you hold them for a lot longer. Just plug for an example. We've been holding that for I think 3 weeks now. This is pushing up on the third week. So it's like, do you really count that as adding it to a single week of trading just because we took a lot of the profits on plug this week? And that goes for multiple other names as well. So my eyes are just on Carvana right now. I gotta say, and I'm gonna tell you why I disagree with that for the time being, is because on your 15-minute, you're weak on the day. Now that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being weak on the day. It's because it's down 7%, and looking at the daily chart, I think that 7% is justifiable. Saying that this from your positive break, you got to anticipate that the longs are in from this 10 break. So from this 10 break, this wick, where does it wick to? Let's just mark this flat top gap. Boom. You see that? Now, just because it's a flat top gap doesn't mean that it doesn't trade back in, but I'd be more interested, the closer you can get it to this flat top break, resist, 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 break out, and you test it before you truly break out. The closer you can get to 28, the better. And if you wanted to say, okay, let's respect the 21, let's respect the 34, okay, so be it. But I think that this just needs a little bit of time to kind of work itself out. It is parabolic, I'm not disagreeing with that, but there is a lot of beautiful moves that are taking place. Is this move a little overextended? Maybe. Maybe. And I would say it does pass the rules to play this like a bullfight. So if this is pullback candle number 1 right here, I'm looking for 2 and 3 to pull back into a level. So who knows? Today is Thursday. Maybe Monday we're talking about this name in the low 30s, and it starts to build this U-shape formation. And it's like, okay, I can get entries down here and respect it up into the middle of this resistance. But I like to get the entry, and if I was looking at taking this, you were on the money with this 27 break, was legit. This is where I would have wanted the entry, and maybe early in the day in these upper 20s, testing with these flat tops. I want to get those entries near those flat tops. But am I saying that the move is over? I would be surprised, because you're holding very good strength, and even looking over towards a weekly chart, parabolic, holding very good strength, plus 133. For me to go and bet against strength, I wouldn't want to do that, is what I'm trying to say. What do you think about Fubo? I looked at Fubo. Fubo, I wish I pulled the trigger on some shares, and I think my chart setup is going to be there. I have the weekly. I don't have any red lines, but you can see this sort of trend line. So here's your positive break. Boom, positive break on the earnings. You pull back in. Where do we retrace to? Right to the gap. Damn close to this gap. So you can see buyers holding it up, and now respect to this trend line. And it actually same story as that Carvana where it had this flat top. Boom, that flat top. So if this is 1, 2, 3 days of increased volume, if this is the top of this pull, I'm looking for 1, 2, 3 candles to come back into a level. And what level do I see? I see a 261 gap that could potentially meet in with the 21 or my 34 as it slopes up. Now, also where this resistance is kind of coming in at is also right over here. If it wants to keep running higher and I miss out on it, I'd say 370 gap is reasonable for an extension. So if you're trying to play around with it, I would try and get more in the middle of this green move and as close to this 230 as possible, or even the trend line. So it's kind of in that same boat as Carvana. AC, I'll take a look at that, ACHR. And then I should go take a look back at Nicholas holding strong. Where's GRR? 458, that's fine. You can see the chart setup that I already have set. Playing around with this flat top. So this, I would say, and let me say something else about those other tickers. So Carvana and Fubo, when I'm dealing with a ticker that I think is potentially a little bit overextended for the time being, I would be looking at them as day trades. Now, when they come into the levels that I'm looking for, I would be looking at them as more swing trades because I think they're more solidified. But this is a good example of it's been respecting this channel. And for some reason, this ticker, I think you've asked about this one, but look at this retest of the flat top. Boom, 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 boom. Right up to the top end of this sort of channel, pulls right back into the previous top right here. I would say your longs got in on the positive break of this green move, and it hasn't looked back since. So I'd say as long as you're trading in this channel, trim the top end, buy the bottom end, and you probably do pretty decent. But looking at this more in particular, kind of a washout top. So anybody short could have gotten stopped out right here, but then new shorts could have also entered potentially, and I would wait. I'd say it's a reasonable setup right here around this 5. Anywhere around this 5, you have the neckline break, boom, and the retest of that. This is a golden entry right down here at 3. Yeah, it's just got some resistance right here. If it can get over top of this, if I was marking some extension points, mark these previous lows, mark these lows right here, boom, boom. So I'd be looking for profit takes. This looks more kind of like a day trade where wait for it. Another thing I should note is it gaps up and it hasn't quite filled this gap yet. So how does it act if it pulls back into that gap? Is there buyers off the gap? Tough to say. But I mean it's reasonable. I would say the 15-minute chart kind of looking like a short actually. You're putting a red engulfing through that trend line and getting close to that negative break. So here's your positive break, boom. You retest the previous high. Here's your positive break right here. They run it up, you take profits up to the levels, which this is your flat top, boom, boom. And now you're kind of breaking this trend line, but you have these tops right in here. So you have support. So it's a tough ask. I don't know what to think about it. GRR coming back in, so let's add the shares that we trimmed. We never got 68s to print, but let's go ahead and go on the bid for a reload of these 450s. And if that fills, we will continue respecting those low 60s and wait for the breakout higher. And Kramer, that, I'm just a single guy. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes on stream. I've made mistakes off stream. I'm not perfect, but my goal is to share an unbiased opinion. For all I know, any of those tickers at any given time, buyers could come in. They all trade volume. So it's in the short term, it's a matter of if more people want to buy than sell at a given price, the price is going to go up. If more people want to sell than buy at a given price, the price is going to go down. It's a continuous battle that as long as the market's open, even after hours and pre-market, it's all just a constant battle of figuring out, do more people want to buy than sell at a given price? That's the way that I look at it. So anything can happen. Can looks good. Let's take a look at Can. I have a little history with this stock. I made a ton of money on it and then lost a ton of money on it. But a nice hold of these 180s and actually a fresh positive break. So this is more so what I'm talking about. Nice 3-candle move. I would have wanted to see this pull back in the 260s, but kind of testing this flat top right here. Not a half bad setup. Earnings, let's see what they did. Closer to that profitability and year over year growth. See what that year over year growth is looking like. Huh, that's interesting. That is a estimated huge decrease in revenue, surprisingly. But a nice solidified higher low right here. and testing near this flat top. Interesting setup. You have quite a bit of time before that earnings report. This looks strong. One pullback candle and now continuation. I would have an alert over top of this flat top and see, and maybe you can get an entry and hold a piece for a dream. But the true entry was, I mean, do I have to even say it? Boom, boom, reject, 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 green engulfing through the level. Doesn't even test back to those 230s. So you got to anticipate that your longs are somewhere in here at the start of this volume increase. So your longs are 30% in the money as we speak. Soundhound, did that give us a test up to 94, 96 yet? It still hasn't filled us at 96, surprisingly. GRR, you got as low as 53s, so didn't get the fill there. Nikola starting to turn up. Ooh, can we get a breakout on Nikola? If we get this break on Nikola, I'm going to be a happy camper. Affirm up to 1780s. Candles green. Can it take out the highs? FVR still holding 30s. Oh man, I'm gonna really hate myself for not punching in on this 580 break. You can see that double top came in, descending channel, gaps up through the downtrend. You can see that downtrend gap up and breaks over top of this neckline. Another 7% day. Where look at that. We were waiting for it broke through it. It tested up to 6. We were sitting there saying, hey, let's pull back into that 580 or close. And now we're sitting up at 7. Get out of here. Get out of here. Unfortunate. I mean, that's been the story of this whole week. Take those neckline breaks. That has been the story. If you were taking neckline breaks on names, the buyers are there. Did you trade BYND? I saw something else. I'm not a fan of soy, so probably not. I've never traded Beyond Meat, but nice U shape. I don't have it on the watch, but I'm sure this nice increased volume. You got buyers in the middle of that green move. Potentially breaking through some sort of downtrend, maybe in the middle of this U shape. Here's your positive break. So I always like to identify that positive break. So from this breakout right here, it rejects, rejects. Now pullback candle, you got buyers here. You can see when we get this positive break, it trades all the ways back in near that original green candle. Boom. So not quite positive yet, but holding. You see how it's holding positive? These are where the big players are at, in my opinion. Where as you're holding that level, you test up. This is where I probably would have wanted to take the trade at the break of that 1450. Break of 1450 right there. You get the pullback candle to add to the position. You get the gap up. Buyers are there off the gap and continuation. So it's not far off. I would say you have some heavy resistance up towards this 18.5. Not a half bad look. Let's look back at this GRR. We're trying to get some more 450s here. I don't know if it's going to come back in. Nikola. If this wants to push up, we already got 195s. We didn't try the reload in here. We thought that maybe it could pull back in the 170s, 160s. But testing like it wants to go take out the highs, and if it does, we're going to be very happy. Soundhound, nice consolidation candles. It looks like it's going to go give me the fill at 96. So let's see if it can go give us the fill at 96 and push up into that 4 flat. GRR back down these 450s. 450s continue holding as support. We're going to keep buying it. FVR holding 30s. What else we have on these top movers? Where'd Plug go? There's Plug. We already got our trims on Plug. We don't need to really watch it. Let's go take a look at Roblox. You know, I think Roblox is a reasonable setup, Kramer, if you're looking for something. Don't follow it just because I am, but the closer you can get to that 43, it's right at a downtrend. Let's just clear everything. You have a catalyst for a flat top building here. You can see the flat top that's been building there. You can see the flat top here at 42s, and the top end of those wicks is at 43. So, I mean, you're a lot closer to that sort of breakout level. So if it pulls in to anywhere around these 42s, I think it's a positive name. It's holding strength, and you have clear outs that you can have on the name at this gap. So any entry that you get near that flat top, you can respect the 45-80 gap and respect the flat top up here. And if you're able to get that breakout, you have a sneaky gap in right here, and then you have the highs. So 48, let's look back over here. So you have the gap, we're respecting, respect the highs, respect the gap, respect 51. So if we get that move up to 51, we're looking at another 15% move. It's not half bad, but the closer you can get it to those 42s, and I'm going to show you another aspect of it that I do like is that you have a trend line that's holding. And looking at the 15-minute, you have a trend line that's holding. So the closer you can get to this trend line, you can see the flat top. The closer it gets to that 42, the more reasonable it looks. No, I haven't traded Beyond Meat. Plug continuing to give up the ghost a little bit, so we had some good trims at the top end of this channel. You know, if it wanted to pull back in, we're looking at bottom end of the channel. So if it came back down to our original entry, we're gonna hammer it. It always seems like my live streams are action packed at the beginning, and then once we get to this lunch hour, it just dies down. And it seems like there's not any content that I'm really presenting to you guys. But that's where I would say I'm a lot different from a lot of other traders is I show a lot more patience, I feel. You know, maybe Kramer, you can testify to that, but you know, other traders that I see, they would be worried with this red candle that's coming in. They'd be like, "Oh my gosh, it moved down from 87 to 83." Oh, like they just seem so tense. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I like being stress free. I like to be relaxed. I like to be able to take a deep breath and see the bigger picture. Where to me the bigger picture was excuse me. My dog just Jesus. Uh where to me the bigger picture was get the entry, trim the levels to the upside, and then when you get these sideways consolidations, just let them work themselves out. If it pulls back in, great. If it goes higher, great. I mean, I don't see how else to explain that. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, Kramer? What do you think? Oh, my dog's gotta go outside, so I'm gonna leave it on this GRR, and I will be back. So give me like 5-10 minutes, give or take. And GRR pushing up to those 60s again. Hopefully I can come back and we got some fills to the upside. So I'll be right back. And we are back. I can see NKLA up at 190s. Gorgeous. Hold on. NKLA looks like a nice setup for a test of this too. I'd say longs get in, you have 3 candles of pullback. The low it gets down to is 170s, where buyers buy it up quickly. Oh, let's look around. Let's look around. A firm still kind of trading sideways. Looks pretty good. Buyers are continuing to hold it above that level. FVR did give up 30s temporarily, which is fine. Plug continuing to build this sort of descending channel, give or take. That is fine. GRR testing up to those. So we never got that reload at 50s. You know, I can go check and see if it gave me a lucky fill, but I don't think it did. GRR. And there's 65s. We're on the tape at 68s. I'm going to take that 50 order off right now. Got up to 67 high right there. We're on the tape at 68. Can we get the fill at 68? Let's find out. Soundhound never gave us that fill either, surprisingly. But, I mean, other than that, guys, I think this is going to call it for the live stream for me today. I appreciate everyone who tuned in. Kramer, I will be watching NKLA with you, I'm sure, for a majority of the rest of the day. If it pushes up to that 2, I'm going to be taking profit. You know, I don't know if you're taking profit. You're in at 1, so reasonable area for me where I'm looking at taking profit is that previous lows, which is that 2 to 206, give or take, which was sort of that flat bottom break back in March. So 2 to 210 I think is a reasonable area for some trims, and that's what I'm going to be doing. Firm, I mean, we went over everything hundreds of times. If you guys want to see what I'm doing, just look back at the live stream. But thanks for tuning in. I appreciate everyone who did, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your Thursday. That being said,